I found a gem of a film called Like the Clouds, Like the Wind, and it's definitely an anime worth covering. So please stay tuned for a retrospective on women in film. Hello, friends and family members. I'm McGann, and welcome back to the Fangirl, where I'm finding some really obscure movies to talk about this year. Now, way back in the grand old year of 1989, there was a Japanese novel called Inner Palace Harem Story, and it won the first ever Japan Fantasy Novel Award, which included a pretty sweet financing deal from Mitsubishi Real Estate to turn the novel into an animated film that's called Like the Clouds, Like the Wind, or Kumo no Yo ni Kaze no Yo ni, which was released in 1990. Hold on, just let that sink in for a second. The book released in 1989, and by 1990, the animated movie was released on television. Not a series, a completed standalone movie. And if you don't find that impressive, you need to go learn about 2D animation. But impressive turnaround aside, the story is set in China during the 17th century, and it follows a young teenage girl named Ginga, who hears that the emperor's wife will get to eat and sleep all day, so she decides to respond to an advertisement to train to be one of the wives of the new emperor. She has a whole journey to get to the palace, goes through training, and faces many naysayers along the way due to Ginga's country girl background and utter lack of manners. However, Ginga also proves herself to be brave, which ends up winning her the role of head concubine. Yay! I guess that would be like first wife if you're a poly-Mormon? Wait, I have to time out to explain this part because it is really weird. Here in the Western world, the word concubine has a really negative connotation to it. It's essentially comparable to a prostitute. However, that is not the case in this story. Basing this solely on context clues from the movie and no actual facts because we don't have helpers here, there's no research department. During the time and place of this film, the emperor gets as many wives as he pleases, and each girl is assigned a numbered ranking. If you've ever seen the show Big Love or Sister Wives, it's kind of like that. The first wife is his true legal wife, and the other wives are less official and important, but they're still wives of the emperor, so they still have status and clout. So Ginga being the head concubine is actually a glorious title. You could not do better for yourself as a woman in this era. However, almost as soon as Ginga finishes her training and is honored with that most coveted title, Emperor Korean informs them that the army is coming. Because, yeah, the B-plot of this movie is that these roughnecks, their term, not mine, decided that they're so bored sitting around that they literally recruit a militia force to storm the palace just because they feel like it. You know, something to do on a Tuesday. And because these dudes are roughnecks, as soon as they hear about the inner palace, which is where all of the emperor's wives are kept, they cannot wait to break in there and start SAing them. What? This was a TV cartoon in 1990, folks. And while the wives are debating fleeing the inner palace, Ginga, who cannot be more than 14 years old, decides that no, they are going to stand their ground, and she scrambles to teach the women how to defend themselves. So what happens when the soldiers haul their rears down the tunnel to the inner palace? They find a cannon pointed right at them and fire! Tons of soldiers get wiped out in a few moments because they assumed these girls would be helpless. Ha! The cannon blast is followed by the women jumping on the roofs and shooting the soldiers, catapulting boulders, and just generally kicking the rogue military's butt. Yet, even though these women are doing very well, they are less than 100 people versus an army of roughly 30,000 men. So the guys keep relentlessly attacking in waves. Then, in a very pure effort to try and save his wives, Emperor Korean offers himself up if the general of the rogue army will let all of the women escape unharmed. Well, Roughneck General takes the emperor, but doesn't let the women go, which causes Ginga to get involved again. She sneaks into where Koreyun is being held captive, and they decide now is a good time to get busy. Then Ginga gives Koreyun a single fire pistol to scare off the guard so he can have a chance to run off, but as soon as Ginga walks away, pow! Koreyun the Emperor has taken his own life so that the general cannot torture or extort him. Now, Ginga is broken to find her husband, but she devises a plan to use the useless gun with no bullets so that she can take a hostage and escape the palace with all of her sister wives. The narrator chimes in saying that Koreyun's dynasty ended that day, but the general who took over the country got dethroned 3 years later, and eventually Ginga and Koreyun's son, because remember that getting it on in captivity thing I mentioned, rises up to the emperorship. Emperor-ness becomes the next emperor. The story is pretty captivating, although much like Snow White, there are definitely some story issues where we get sudden jumps or chunks of the story get handled with narration instead of exposition. But for a made-for-TV movie, this is really well put together as an anime. What I like most is that this movie removes the issue of, well, for the time period, blah 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 is accurate and women should be yada yada yada. Yes, women in the 1600s in China had very different lives than American women do today. But, like pretty much every animated movie, it's based on fictional work. So even realistic fiction has some room for empowerment. And I love how much Like the Clouds Like the Wind emphasizes that a woman can find strength at any age and in any position. Being the head concubine, probably known as the Empress, is a very dainty position where you aren't expected to do much other than reproduce. And that's all there in this story. Yet, Ginga doesn't let those expectations define her. She fights back. She quickly trains an army of other women expected to be on their backsides nonstop. She remains outspoken no matter how many people try to shut her down. And off-screen, she goes off to raise a baby on her own, knowing that that baby is going to have a very dangerous life where assassins are going to be rabid to go after a royal child. I mean, for a movie about marrying a man you've never met and being locked up in a fortress palace where no man can ever interact with you again, this is a crazy girl power kind of movie. This is honestly one of the few times where my dyslexic self wanted to track down the book to see if there was more to the written story after Ginga left the inner palace. I am so enthralled and want to know more about this fantasy world and what happened to these characters afterwards. I really don't have a theory or any kind of amazing observation to offer here, but this film seems to be going unnoticed to English-speaking audiences. So if I can help nudge any of you to check this out, then I have done my duty of spreading fandoms throughout the land. I might be overthinking it, but that's literally my job. Man, it's been a minute since I've said that. And to any of my members here on YouTube, a huge bottom of my heart thank you for all of your help and support. If you would like to become a paid channel member, there is a link in the description below. Thanks again, guys. Love you. Well, family members, we're almost done, but I want to invite you to hang out with me in some other places. I'm on Twitter and Instagram as my own personal self, and I have a Facebook page too, but I mostly just post photos over there. And sometimes people say, hey, McGann, I want to mail you something. How do I do that? Easy. Just click the About tab on my channel page, and my most current P.O. Box info will be right there. I also run another channel, The Family. It's really a hodgepodge channel where we might post anything. Oh yeah, and I also sell shirts and stickers and stuff with the Family and the Fangirl logos. If that is your cup of tea, I have a link in every description of every video. Finally, if you want to help out the Fangirl channel and make sure I'm putting out video essays for years to come, the best way you can help is by subscribing and watching more of my videos, whether they're new, old, whatever. Maybe even share one or two on social media, help spread the word. People who watch to the end of videos like you helps to tell the site, hey, this is a good video, we should recommend it to other people. So if you made it this far, leave me a comment of something like, hey, I made it to the end. Love ya. See you next time, family members. Bye.